Hey, I'm Maddie, and here's everything I watched in June 2025. I heard a lot of mixed reviews going into this, and honestly, I didn't like it too much. It just felt like any other recent Marvel movie, but with a disjointed connection to the universe. It didn't feel as if anything mattered or was connected to anything in the cinematic universe Marvel has spent the last 10 years or so creating. If you're on the fence about it, I wouldn't really recommend it. This movie was a trip. I ended up having to watch it in two installments just because of how the timing worked out with the lighting and my friend's projector, but that didn't take away from anything from away from the movie for me. The opening scene alone lets you know what kind of movie you're in for, and that's a twisted, somewhat grotesque, crazy ass movie. The movie itself is about a family opened up a bed and breakfast, but all of their guests keep dying. Instead of bringing it to the police, they decide to hide the bodies. I recommend going into this movie with just that small synopsis because the shock factor and random things that occur is what I enjoyed most about this movie. If you're into oddball movies, this one's for you. I watched this after Happiness of the Katakuris purely because me and my friends had the time and had split the movie into two. This is a classic. I don't think there's much to add. If you've never seen a Monty Python movie, I'd probably start here as it gives you a good grasp of what Monty Python is all about without getting too ridiculous. I'd been chipping away at Pluto throughout the first week of June, and I couldn't recommend it more. Naoki Urasawa is without a doubt a master of writing and illustration, and seeing his work come to life through animation is nothing short of a spectacle. This story takes place in a futuristic world where robots have nearly become human-like, and you follow Gesicht. I forget how to say his name. Gesicht, an advanced robot detective investigating a series of murder cases where the world's most advanced robots are being killed one by one. The story unfolds in so many different ways, and really makes you think. It has stuck with me throughout the month and still has me thinking about the reality of emotions and what it means to be alive. Couldn't recommend it more if you are a fan of animation or you're looking to get into it. I'd also recommend looking at Naoki Urasawa's mangas because he does an amazing job writing about kind of what's happening nowadays. It's a bit crazy how much he predicted. This was meant to be some sort of successor to the 2010 found footage movie Troll Hunter. This movie ended up being added to the list of Netflix slop. It follows a paleontologist whose father really enjoyed folk stories, but she grew to reject them after her mother passed away, and he lost himself in his own world of make believe. That is until a troll gets awoken and she has to work with the government to stop it. The movie is very meh and isn't really worth watching. If you haven't, watch Troll Hunter instead. If you have seen Troll Hunter, don't bother with this one. This anthology series following various predators hunting down warriors of the past on Earth was so cool. I really enjoyed each story and how each predator's style is somewhat aligned with the era and humans they are hunting. I definitely recommend watching even if you aren't into the Predator movies. I believe the series as a whole would be better animated. My only complaint with the movie was the final act. It felt awkward, and I didn't really enjoy how the Predator culture had lost its sense of pride compared to the other movies. Hoping they navigate this a little bit differently in Badlands. This was a very interesting movie that combined found footage, deleted scenes from previous work, and a loosely told drama revolving around a breakup and quarantine. Shots are beautiful and the music was incredible, but I don't think I'm at a point in my movie going experience to fully enjoy this movie for what it is. I found myself getting bored at some points, and the disconnected story was new to me. Would really recommend this to people who are fans of artistic films and montage films, not really for the standard moviegoer. My friend and I's my friends and I did talk a lot about it after seeing it though. I wouldn't say it's a bad movie. I would just say it takes quite a bit of experience with film to properly enjoy. Um, when I first heard another Pinocchio movie was made, I was about as uninterested as I could possibly be. But after seeing behind the scenes of the claymation, I knew I had to give it a try. The movie takes an old story and puts a new twist on it in ways other Pinocchio movies could not. The movie is so full of pain and the importance of mortality and family values that it made me feel hope for kids' movies again. It tackled large questions about life without removing itself from the intended audience, and is so unlike the majority of kids' movies coming out that lack these important messages. Also, the small moments of horror mixed into the story made Pinocchio's experience seem realistic. For reference, when he first comes to life, he doesn't move like a human, and you can understand Geppetto's discomfort and fear throughout the scene. I would highly recommend this movie. I feel like almost everyone has seen this now, and if you haven't and are over the age of 16, I'd recommend it. The series is 4 episodes, and each episode is one long continuous shot, which makes for some very creative moments, and you feel as if you were there with the characters stewing in the discomfort and grief. The story is about a boy who gets arrested under suspicion for murder. The story unfolds throughout each episode and highlights the dangers of the internet and the importance of strong family bonds and the needs for good teachers. I found the school episode so miserable because of how shit the teachers are. And from real world experience, I can say that it's not too far off from real schools, which is a miserable thought. Anyways, definitely give it a try. I watched this on a whim, not thinking much of it, and I found myself extremely surprised. This movie is 4 individual stories that all take place at the same time and have a good amount of crossover between them. The movie itself plays as heavily inspired from Tarantino in a way that shows it's not shy to show itself as a heavily inspired film. Nothing annoys me more than a copy that doesn't pay some sort of tribute to its inspiration. I'd recommend going into the movie blind and just experiencing it for what it is. I would say this was my favorite movie of June, and I was completely expecting it to be just another trash film. Classic 2000s movie. If you haven't seen it and you like 2000s movie, it's worth adding to the list. Follows a rich girl who has her head in the clouds and loses all her money, and she learns how to be a human through nannying a young girl who acts older than she is. The movie has a surprising amount of depth to it and wrapped itself up in a nice little bow, but I can't find too much to actually say about it. Doesn't really do anything new for its time, but that doesn't make it a bad movie. I watched it outside with some friends and enjoyed it, but I also didn't think much about it afterwards. Anyways, a much watch for those stuck in the 2000s. Don't Move, more like Don't Bother, pure Netflix slop, trying to be like Don't Breathe, but in a different, less interesting way. A really cool documentary about a group of artists making an apartment inside a mall. I really enjoyed watching the process of them making the apartment and the history behind the city and the impact the mall had on it. But there is also a 30-minute section that talks about tape art that I just really didn't sign up for. I'm trying to watch every Godzilla movie, and I watched the first movie in this trilogy when it first came out and thought it was poo poo, so I didn't bother with the rest. Update, the rest are poo poo too. It's poo poo. Moving on. It's hard recommending this one to friends based on the title alone, but if you haven't been exposed to the hype behind this, now's the time. Sony has been killing it in the animated movies lately, and this is another addition to a great run. The story from the surface is pretty shallow. K-pop group of female idols have to fight against a K-pop group of demon boys, but below the surface, each character is well fleshed out and very human for a movie that's an hour and a half. Also, the expressions the artist came up with are so amazing because they are cartoonish without making the movie feel like a cartoon. The music is also really catchy. Heavily recommend this movie, and it was definitely in contention for best movie I'd seen in June. This was a big day of movies for me, and I ended it with an absolute banger. Another round is about a group of teachers who find out their students think they are boring, so they start drinking in order to become more entertaining. The movie has some comedic parts, but plays more like a drama, so be prepared for some heavy scenes. I watched this as part of a movie night with friends, and despite it being in another language, we were able to chat and keep track of what was happening, which speaks to how good the writing was. It never really feels bland or drawn out. Definitely a must watch. Definitely a peek in Adam Sandler's career. If you haven't seen it, it is about a failed hockey player who finds out he is gifted at playing golf. He then ends up in a huge competition where he works on learning the sport while also working on picking up a journalist who is covering his story. Very funny, very entertaining. I'd recommend this to anybody for a chill night in. The sequel has recently come out, but I can't speak to it yet, and my hopes aren't too high considering it's a Netflix film. After K-pop Demon Hunters, I felt inclined to watch this purely because of the amount of thirst traps I have been seeing on Instagram about Ken Sato. I didn't grow up watching Ultraman, and you really don't need to for this movie. It's just about a famous baseball player moving back to Japan after his mother disappears. He moves to play in the Japanese league, but to also take his father's place as Ultraman, a vigilante with the ability to become a giant in order to defend the city from kaijus and kaijus from the government. I thought it was fun and enjoyable, but as far as a message, it didn't hit me the same way Pinocchio did. Definitely not a fair comparison, but I still believe that children's movies should carry powerful messages along with a fun story. This movie leans more towards being fun than its message for environmental conservation and importance of good parenting. Part of me has always felt like I've seen this movie, and if you watch it, you'll realize how ironic that is. The movie is about an alien spaceships that randomly appear across 12 different spots on Earth. Each government is in a race to learn to communicate with them, and you follow a linguist who deciphers their language. If you are a fan of linguistics or sci-fi, this is definitely worth the watch. I don't consider myself a large sci-fi fan, but this was an incredible movie and sits pretty high on my rankings of sci-fi movies. This was basically Wes Anderson's subsequent film. If you like Wes Anderson, you've probably already seen it, and if you've never seen Wes Anderson, there are definitely better places to start, such as Mr. Fantastic Fox or The Grand Budapest Hotel. The movie was fun, but I found it overly Wes Anderson in that some dialogue was hard to distinguish, and the theming overpowered the story. Beautiful film, though. The Trainwreck series, to me, is as close to brain rot documentaries as we can get. This one especially was hard to watch because of how poorly each interviewee speaks, but it was interesting learning about what led to the crisis, but that accounted for about 10 minutes of the movie. Gave Adam Sandler and sci-fi another look this month and found myself pretty disappointed but not surprised. Spaceman follows an astronaut who is on his way to Jupiter, I believe, to investigate an anomaly. He is completely alone, and in his isolation, he is struggling with marriage problems. He also meets a spider alien on his ship at some point and explores his marriage problems with the spider. It's a pretty odd movie with a melancholic filter over it. I think it was trying to do a bit too much and came up with pretty boring conclusions for how to overcome apathy towards life. I don't know if I'd really recommend this movie to anybody, but if that loose description of the movie interested you at all, it is probably worth checking out. I don't think it was a bad film. I just found it particularly boring myself. Ending the month with a banger, I'm trying to watch all the Godzilla movies, as I said earlier, that I haven't already seen, and after watching this, I can understand why there is so much love for Godzilla nearly 70 years after the initial release. There's so much to say about this movie, but it is really better if you just experience it yourself. This is a great entry point into older movies or foreign films if you really haven't explored either. And that's it. That was every movie I watched in June 2025. As of writing this, my watch list has grown exponentially and currently sits at 695 movies. And the goal for the end of the year is to chop that to under 600. I don't really rewatch movies because I find there are so many I haven't seen, and I'd like to give movies that are new to me a chance. If you want to follow me on Letterboxd to keep updated, my username is in the description below. I'll be posting my monthly recaps here as quickly as I can after each month to give a bit more insight into my thoughts on each movie and whether or not I recommend them. Anyways, keep exploring the world for what it has to offer, and I'll see you in the next one.